That's because week 2 of this war has seen a different strategy. The Russian blitzkrieg has clearly failed. This is now a battle of attrition. More airstrikes, more shelling, more deployments. Russia is looking to demoralize Ukrainians, basically bomb them into submission. 5 cities are on Russia's radar: Kiev, Kharkiv, Mariupol, Cherniv and Odessa. All 5 are under constant bombardment. We'll start with Kiev. Earlier this week, we told you about a Russian convoy about 64 kilometers long, 20 kilometers from Kiev. Where is that convoy now? It's still there. US intelligence says the convoy has been stalled. They're facing 2 major problems: stiff local resistance and major logistical issues. In the meantime, Russia is softening Kiev's defenses. How? With targeted bombing. This is what the city's suburbs look like right now. Take a look. As you move further into the city, the scenes change. The roads are dotted with these strange-looking metal structures. They're called hedgehogs. What do? Hedgehogs are basically anti-tank barricades. They can halt or at least slow Russian military vehicles. So Kiev is bracing for the endgame. It is not a question of if the convoy arrives, it's a question of when. And right now, Ukraine is doing its best to delay the inevitable. Elsewhere, the inevitable is already happening. Cherniv, for instance, is being pounded non-stop. These pictures should tell you how intense the attack is. The roads are littered with debris. Cars have been reduced to sheets of metal. Buildings have been sliced in half. And with every strike, the human cost is mounting. 33 people have died so far. Ukraine says schools and houses are being targeted. You can imagine what it's like in the city. Bombs can drop anytime, anywhere, and that's exactly what happens in this next video. Something similar is happening in Mariupol. Now, this is a strategically important city, Mariupol. It is located on the Sea of Azov. Right now, Russian forces have besieged it. There are reports of massive food and drug shortages. What's worse, there is constant bombardment. Take a look at these apartment buildings. They were targeted by Russian strikes. You can see fires burning at the ground level. The whole building is clouded in smoke, much like these buildings in Kharkiv. Now, this city, Kharkiv, was supposed to be an easy conquest for Russia. It is made up of Russian speakers, plus it is close to the Russian border. Instead, Kharkiv is putting up a spirited resistance. But Russia is not backing down. Their strategy is ruthless. The more you resist, the more we bomb. And this is the aftermath of those bombings. We've told you about 4 cities: Kiev, Kharkiv, Cherniv and Mariupol. All 4 are being pounded by missiles. All 4 are being encircled by Russia. Yet all 4 are in Ukrainian control. And that may change over the weekend. But for now, the Ukrainian soldiers stand resolute. What about the Russian soldiers? What is their next target? According to some reports, this port on the Black Sea, Odessa, it is the 3rd largest city in Ukraine. If you capture Odessa, you can cut Ukraine off from the sea. The question is, how do you reach Odessa? Here's what US intelligence says. Russia is planning an amphibious landing. What does that mean? That Russian warships are planning to ferry soldiers to Odessa, basically land them on the beach. Is there any proof of this plan? Many experts point to this video. It was shot from Western Crimea. What you're looking at are Russian amphibious ships. Reports say they're now heading to Odessa. How is Ukraine preparing for this amphibious assault? They're fortifying the beach with sandbags and hedgehogs. Now, amphibious landings are extremely risky. Some, like Gallipoli, have ended in utter disaster. Others, like Normandy, eventually led to success. So we'll have to see how Odessa plays out. And where does that leave diplomacy? As more of a showpiece, you could say. On Thursday, Russian and Ukrainian officials held the second round of talks. The pictures were telling. The Ukrainian side turned up in green overalls. The Russian delegates were fully suited. Did they make any progress? Both sides agreed to establish a humanitarian corridor. They agreed to let citizens leave peacefully. But on the battlefront, there was no progress, no indications of a ceasefire. So Ukraine is turning elsewhere. They're asking NATO to enforce a no-fly zone over the country, over Ukraine. What does that mean? A no-fly zone is an area controlled by a military power. Nobody else can enter it. If they do, they can be shot down. Kiev wants NATO to establish this zone over Ukraine, a no-fly zone, but NATO's reply was clear. This is not our war.
The reason why that has not been a step the president has been willing to take, or we have been interested in taking, is because a no-fly zone requires implementation. It would require essentially the U.S. military shooting down Russian planes and prompting a potential direct war with Russia, the exact step that we want to avoid.
NATO foreign ministers did meet in Brussels today. Their agenda was as expected: more sanctions, more military assistance, anything that keeps them out of the battle. Last Friday, Russian soldiers had entered the outskirts of Kiev. The city was expected to fall over the weekend. 7 days later, Kiev stands resolute. So we cannot be sure what's in store this weekend. All we can say is this: do not underestimate the Ukrainian resistance. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.